Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at, and welcome to the E-Tool Nation podcast. I am SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell, and I got my co-host here. Introduce yourself, co-host.
Retired, but not expired, no better friend, and no worst enemy. Alfonso Ramos Jr. here. Glad to be here with you tonight.
And he is if you haven't noticed by the dialect there, he is a sergeant major in the Marine Corps, okay? So, hey, brother, it's good to see you. And we have a special guest today, man. Brother, we're going to get after this PME hard, man. Physically, mentally, and emotionally hard. We're going to get after some important conversations here in the next couple of shows about physical, mental, and emotional wellness. And I could think of no better person to kick off our PME hard campaign than our guest we have here tonight. Her name is Dr. Tiffany Tajiri. She's a licensed and board certified clinical psychologist, a veteran U.S. Air Force officer, boom, and currently the chief of the largest behavioral health clinic at Fort Bliss, Texas. She is the CEO and founder of Stand Up and Recover Incorporated, the creator of Rhythm Restoration, and co-author of Abundant Recovery Curriculum at Abundant Church. She is also the author of a book that I had the honor of collaborating with her on to give the foreword, called Peace After Combat. And we're going to talk about this throughout the show. But Doc, it is great to see you. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join Fonz and I today. We appreciate you being here. How are you?
John, it's my pleasure. Thank you. I am so blessed to be on your show. And I'm so grateful you finally have your own show. You have so much knowledge, so much to offer. Boom, right there.
Boom. Yeah. And, and I had to get a battle buddy here. So I got my favorite Marine here, Alfonso Ramos. We call him Fonz. So, Fonz, what do you think? We're going to have a good show, right?
Absolutely. We're going to get some good, candid conversations started here that I know are just not only going to be intriguing, but they're going to be some conversations that you can look back and utilize in your own life.
Awesome. And to our audience out there, get your questions ready because we want to make this interactive. And we want you to pick Doc Tiffany's brain here on some stuff. And don't forget, on the E-Tool Nation podcast, at the end, the most interactive will win free copies of the Peace After Combat book written by Doc Tiffany. So, Doc, we like to start off the show with current events. And we're talking about physical and mental and emotional health, specifically here with behavioral health and those service members, veterans, and even families that may have challenges with PTSD. And the one thing that has been in the news lately, as you know, that a lot of service members and veterans have been dealing with, or in some cases struggling with, is the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And, even though some folks may not have served in Afghanistan, they have skin in the game because they've done other things, or they are a spouse of a service member or anything. And from your professional opinion, how prevalent are the effects of psychological trauma based on an event like this? How important is this, and how has your work kind of changed based on something like this?
That's a fantastic question. And I like to think of trauma as a constellation. Think of stars in the night sky. So the hallmark trait of post-traumatic stress is avoidance. We don't want to deal with it. We just want to sweep it under the rug. And we want to keep busy and stay active so that we don't have the time to sit with the painful experiences. That includes combat-related trauma, but it also includes trauma from childhood, any other portion of life prior to the military. So when a significant event happens, like what recently did in Afghanistan, it triggers that trauma constellation. Everything that was unprocessed or unresolved from your past starts to light up. And then you have these emotions that you feel confused about. You try to stuff it, but because you've not processed so much, it starts to bubble over. It's almost like a volcano that's erupting. So the goal in life is to process painful experiences as they come so that we don't become overwhelmed and that we don't have to do a spring cleaning, essentially, of our psychological well-being. But absolutely, I have seen service members being triggered by this.
Awesome. Go ahead, Fonz.
Doctor, I have so many questions to ask you related to that trigger specifically. I believe that joining the service, regardless of what branch you're in, is more of a calling, right, than an actual job, right? It's not female, it's not male, it's not majority or minority, right? Stars, bars, or chevrons are only indicators of the responsibility we are given to hold at any time. Rather, being a service member comes from that message that we received since the first day we joined. And that is that we belong to something greater, right? There's purpose behind what we do in defending the Constitution of the United States against enemies, no matter where they're at, right? And then we go into combat and we accomplish just that, what we enlisted or commissioned to do, right?
Yes.
And then we focus on those individuals to the left and to the right of us and watching their six. And we do a good job. We do that for 20 years, right? Bringing peace and freedom to various nations. Afghanistan one, Iraq another.
Yes.
And then we find out that it is given back to the Taliban, the individuals who we fought.
Yes.
And they're now in control of the government. And I know it's not easy even for me to just to talk about it. It gives me kind of goosebumps just even thinking about it. But how do service members being brought in believing that this is a calling, this is their fate, this is what they were born to do, right? And then this happened. What can they do, or what do you think what they can do to help them cope with that?
That is a profound question, and I'm so thankful that you asked it. So when I think about it, I really truly look at this was the end of one chapter in a book. We're starting a new chapter. It's a pause. It doesn't mean we lost. We didn't lose. It's a beginning of a new chapter. Things must evolve and take time. Painful life experiences happen, but we learn in the process and we acquire wisdom that we're able to introspect more and then apply later to the future, because the next chapter is coming and it's going to be victorious. One. Number two, there are so many victories that we've had in Afghanistan that are unprecedented. So many. You know, I'm very spiritual and I believe firmly. I tell one of my soldiers sat in front of me the other day and he was like, Doc, I feel like I did all of this for nothing. And then I said, well, tell me stories of the impact that you had on the Afghan people. And he told me these remarkable stories that gave me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps just now talking about it. And I said, you know, the Lord placed something in your heart for you. And you accomplished the mission that God called you to do, whether it was bring food to a village, whether it was to get somebody the medical resources they need in order to stand up and recover. Whatever the situation may have been, there have been profound relationships that we've acquired with the Afghan people, deep and meaningful. They also informed me that some of the Afghan people have done more in service for our country than many regular civilians, that they've done so much for the United States of America. And so when we take a step back, we recognize that we have truly formed with an ally and that we are working to help them as they would help us in a time of need. And we are creating these very important spiritual, emotional, and psychological bonds so that we can continue to persevere, because humanity is about love. Humanity is about protection. Humanity is taking care of one another. And I can't tell you how proud I am of my service members who just went out there literally giving the shirt off their back to wrap babies in. We have a plethora of victories, and we got to focus on those victories. We can't, now I tell you, I'm a spiritual person. We can't let the enemy infiltrate our minds and think that we were not victorious, right? Because when the enemy infiltrates our mind, they don't only infiltrate our battle space, but heck no, you're going to get my mind. I know what victory I had in combat. I know the things that I saw. I saw lives touched and impacted, and I did good. And that's what we have to stand by. And remember, the small victories, small or large, you may think your victory is small just because it's one person you impacted, but you impacted a person's entire life. That is huge. Focus on the positive.
Absolutely. Hey, Doc, one of the things that I found very intriguing, that I really appreciate what you're doing with your work, is the combination of psychology and spirituality. And you mentioned faith a little bit. And, the term that you hear a lot, especially those of us that spend a lot of time in combat, is there are no atheists in foxholes, okay? Because at any given time, there has to be something, a higher being or something inner to ourself that we look to for hope and for guidance and things like that. So kind of talk us through, as we get ready to talk about your book, about your vision on this psychology and spirituality coming together to treat your patients.
Well, John, let me just put it this way. You are a series of chemical and electrical impulses. You are science. God created science. Boom. Right. With that being said, we are psychology. So we can't get rid of God and science, period. That's in my book, at least. And so with that being said, when we look at adding spirituality, we come to recognize that faith, if we look deeply, is actually the best protective factor when it comes to suicide prevention. Now, faith has to be grounded in a positive force. It has to be grounded, in my perspective, humbly in love, right?
Yeah.
You think of Psalm 23 and you think of, yea, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they bring me comfort. How many of our combat veterans walk through the valley of the shadow of death on deployment every single day for an entire year? Right. And, bad things may happen, but here's the truth. And in scripture, it states that no weapon in the spiritual realm formed against us will ever prosper, because believing in God, we have that eternal life. And that's what's so important. And what I tell my soldiers, the book's title was actually supposed to be Where is God in War? It was very provocative, right? But the reality is it answers that question midway through the book. And here's my bottom line up front. If it's not love, it's not God, because God's got your six 24/7. He goes before you and he goes ahead of you in whatever you do. He is flanking you on both sides. So God is love. And in order to have love, we have to have relationship. But in order to have relationship, we have to have free will. So God's never going to take free will away, because that's the purpose of our creation. In fact, we are neurobiologically wired to love and to be loved. And so he's never going to take free will away. People are going to do ugly things, and he's not going to stop them, because if he takes their free will away, they become robots. And that's not the purpose of our creation, since it is love. And so he doesn't take it away. People are going to be jerks. And in fact, we're going to be jerks sometimes and do bad things to other people, maybe not intentionally, but we do, especially when we have PTSD, hurt people. We do it inadvertently so. And so with that being said, we have to understand that God will make a way for us. He will turn what they say in scripture, beauty for ashes. Essentially, when there are ashes, the phoenix will rise up. And he will be the one to get us through and to make a way in the wilderness, streams in the wasteland, and part the Red Sea.
It's interesting. One of my soldiers that I had during the surge in Iraq in 2007 and 8, very hard combat tour where we lost 54 killed in action, over 500 severely wounded. And this young man, who was a young man at the time in 2007-8, and he had been in some hard battles, came back from deployment. He went back, had some more hard battles. Then he got out of the military and was not being treated for his PTSD. And I've since reconnected with him over the last 2 years. And he told me about it multiple times where he was contemplating suicide. And I said, well, what pulled you through? And he said, my faith. And so I think it's powerful. What you just said is very powerful. And the ability to bring psychology and faith or spirituality together, I think, is a powerful combination.
Amen. Preach that. I agree with you completely. And, here's just a fun fact for those Christian folks listening. John 15:13 states there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for that of a friend. And so when you go to combat and when you sign the forms to enlist or to commission, what are you doing? You're being willing to lay down your life because you don't know what the future holds. And so there's no greater love than that. And from a Christian perspective, we know that's what Jesus has done for us, is lay down his life. And when we see ourselves in that very loving spiritual place, we don't look at ourselves as monsters anymore. It's important.
Yeah. So we're going to get into the book here. All right. And to our viewers, you're watching the Etool Nation podcast powered by Veterans Lending Group. And we have Dr. Tiffany Tajiri here as our guest. Fonz and I do. And the book she wrote is Peace After Combat. And like I said, I had the honor of writing the foreword for this book. So Doc, can you tell us a little bit about your vision? Why did you want to write a book? And what are you hope that service members, veterans, and family members can get out of the book?
Well, let me tell you the reality of things. When I was still in the green suit in the Air Force, I was waking up at 0:30 to start writing all this dystopian fiction that I thought was so cool. Think back in the day, like the Hunger Games, I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. And I got rejection after rejection. I was like, Lord, why did you put this in my heart if I'm getting rejected 24/7? And so irregardless, I just put down writing for a little while and let it sit. And then I was bathing my son one evening, washing his hair, and all of a sudden the clouds parted and light came out. And literally God said to me, you every day, my daughter, are sitting in front of our service members, asking and answering the question, where is God in war? It's time to write about it. You have such beautiful stories. And that's exactly why I called you to write fiction before, so you could get the practice needed to write the stories that you read in the book. And truly, it's a book. I kind of see it like a chicken soup for the soul, for our service members. The chapters have all independent stories, so you don't have to feel like you have to remember what happened the last time. Truly, you just open up a new chapter. You got a new story, and you got new concepts to educate yourself on from a psychoeducational perspective, but also from a spiritual one.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is, you and I had a chance to collaborate when I came to El Paso, and you kind of have a video. And if you don't mind, we'd like to show this video right quick to our audience that we kind of did. So Victoria, can we play the video, please?
Hello, I'm Dr. Tiffany, and I want to thank you for joining us for Memorial Day weekend. Today, I ask that we look at Memorial Day from a new perspective, one that is grounded in the spiritual victory of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Jesus sacrificed his life for our eternal salvation. Our military service members sacrificed their lives to protect our country and preserve our great American freedoms. Jesus is our stand up and recovery. And I believe firmly that those we lost acting in the call of duty are standing recovered, made whole, and healed at the right hand of God. I believe and I know that through Jesus, they are victorious. No one understands sacrifice more than him. I'm Dr. Tiffany Tajiri. I'm a licensed and board certified clinical psychologist and Air Force veteran officer. I am the author of the book, Peace After Combat, Healing the Spiritual and Psychological Wounds of War. Did you know that approximately every hour, one combat veteran ends their life by suicide? Why? Because the spiritual and psychological warfare is real, and it is found in the form of the lying enemy, more specifically, survivor's guilt. To combat this, I have written an excerpt from my book entitled, If They Could Speak. I would love to share that with you now. You're still holding on to me, and that's okay. But I don't appreciate how you choose to hold on to me. You're tethered to me with so much hurt and suffering. You're tethered to me with so much anger, hate, and guilt. You're tethered to me with should'ves, could'ves, and would'ves. All you see of me is the image of my last moment in my life, my worst moment, breathless and physically broken. I am the kite tethered to you by a line. The line that connects us is a toxic energy of emotional hurt. I'd prefer you let me go, as such a connection pains us both. But you won't let me go, because if you let me go, you believe my sacrifice will have been in vain, forgotten. So I understand that you need that tether, but I ask you to replace the toxic line. Please cut our connection of pain and suffering. I don't want that energy connected to my spirit, nor do I want to be the source of your hurt. If I sacrifice my life so you can have yours, live it well, live it free, and live it loved. What's the point of having sacrificed my life if you're beating yourself up, pushing your loved ones away, and contemplating suicide? You're letting the enemy win the spiritual warfare, and that disappoints me, my friend. You must beat the enemy that has infiltrated your heart and mind. Start by tethering me to a line of love and gratitude so that you may have peace. Replace your last memory of me with that time I made you laugh so hard you pissed your pants. Live your life now in the ways I couldn't live mine. I'm content and at peace here. There's no need to worry about me. I assure you that my existence is much sweeter than yours. I'll see you in time, my friend. John 15:13 states that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for that of the friend. To bring these words to life, I am proud to introduce you to the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, retired John Wayne Troxell. He was the highest ranking enlisted service member in the entire Department of Defense. He walked through the valley of the shadow of death with God on his side for 5 combat deployments from Panama to Iraq and Afghanistan. This is his message.
The worst day of my life, of my 38-year military career, was the 19th of July, 2007, during the surge into Iraq. And although that day may have seemed routine because we were out patrolling routinely like we normally did, it was anything but when the enemy attacked us with an improvised explosive device. It killed one of my personnel security detail, Corporal Brandon Craig, severely wounding one other and others who were minorly wounded. And on that day, as challenging as it was physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually, to not only neutralize that threat to our patrol, but to realize that we lost a good man, I knew that day that God was on my side and that things were going to be okay. And as I think about Corporal Brandon Craig and the warrior he was, and if he could speak today, he would tell our platoon, boys, keep pressing on, keep getting after the mission, and keep doing what you're doing. I am living in paradise in heaven, he would say. I am living the outdoors that I love, fishing and hunting and spending time just enjoying life. And I'm preserving your spot in heaven, and I'll have a rod and reel ready for you when you guys show up. And if he could speak and talk to me, I know he would say, Sergeant Major, everything's okay. I love you, man. Keep doing what you're doing and keep getting after preserving freedom in our way of life. So for those of you who on your worst day may be looking for the same kind of solace, always remember this: God is on your side. Boom. Wow, that got me in the feels, even to this day. So
good.
Yeah. So we want to talk about the book, and we want to talk about some of the characters that you describe in the book. So Fonz, go ahead, man.
The first character I'll talk about is Tech Sergeant Paco. And the reason being is I grew up Catholic. Over time, I've become Christian, non-denominational. So I do consider myself a a believer. But I would say I've noticed myself that I've been in strange positions when I kind of stray off that path. And I would say it's kind of like the only thing I can liken them to is where bad things happen in schools, like in elementary school, right? When you go out to recess, the teacher gets you out, and where does all the smoking and all the bad things happen is the farther you're away from the teacher.
Oh yeah.
Right. And things happen and right. And then you come back, and the closer you're with the teacher, she'll teach values to you, ethics, morals. And it's also kind of the way my NCOs, right? My NCOs are the ones that are leading me, teaching me my MOS, whatever the case may be. But the farther I'm away from them, I'm left, right, in a position where I may not make the right decisions. But Tech Sergeant Paco specifically was a believer, gets out there in combat, and he's running a DFAC as a cook. He has his soldiers, and unfortunately during a mortar attack, one of his soldiers is wounded and died in his arms, actually. And that caused them, unfortunately, to then have a resentment towards God. He tried to compartmentalize it, right, by staying busy, but ultimately it came back. So, Dr. Tiffany, I guess my question is it God's fault? And two, when, as we're faced with these challenges and something as traumatic as a combat death, when should we deal with it?
Wow. Power existential question. So powerful. My goodness. And I really liked your analogy about being an NCO, and the further your soldiers go or the further your Marines go away from you, the more you drift. That is so good. Is it copywritten?
Yes, right. As of right now.
I'm going to steal it. Very good. Bravo on that. So needless to say, the bottom line up front, the bluff is, if it's not love, it's not God. Okay. So no, it's not God. Some jerk chose with their free will to do something negative to harm the DFAC, but he's going to make a way for us to recover. Now, Tech Sergeant Paco does a lot of coping in the sense he has to be manic. He's doing something 24/7. He doesn't stop. And we call that a manic type coping because it doesn't allow you the time to sit and process. So you can imagine when you go from a high operational tempo to retirement, oh my goodness, your brain's going to go a million miles an hour. What do they say? The idle mind is the devil's playground, right? And so you have to hold your thoughts captive to, from a Christian perspective, it states in the Bible, you hold your thoughts captive to Christ. It's everything that's good, everything that's wonderful. When we look at who God is, he describes himself as Savior, Redeemer, and Deliverer. So if there's any situation in your life where you're like, is this from God? If it's not saving, if it's not delivering, and it's not redeeming, then it's not from God. Okay, so he has to work through the pain of being in war. Yes, when we sign that dotted line, we all know the possibility of what could face us from worst case scenario, and we still do it because we have free will, and God's never going to take that away. But he will be on our side, and as you saw in the book, God turns beauty for ashes. He ends up, I think Tech Sergeant Paco ends up getting out of the military. He opens up his own bakery. He donates her favorite pastries back to the military. And then he's able to produce funds for her family. And they're able to come to the United States and live a wonderful life that she had worked so hard and sacrificed her life so that they could come together. I believe she was Korean in the book. I can't remember from the top of my head. But yeah, so they came over and she was a dreamer. And she, from active duty to passing away, unfortunately, being at the right hand of God. But what she did and her sacrifice allowed so many others to reap such benefit. Good harvest in that book and that story.
Dr. Tiffany, you made me think is that a good NCO, or just the first leaders that I remember to this day that prepared me for the rigors of combat, right? They utilized any scenario, whether it was PT, whether it was just my daily duties to instill in me just discipline, right? And just being ready. But, and we talk about it and we see it in our legacy and in our history, right? That the unfortunate freedom is not free, and death occurs.
Yeah.
But what we don't necessarily get prepared for is dealing with the various things that we may have seen, whether it's our buddies to the left or to the right, passing away, or whether it's us. And there's still a lot of service members that, although we get paid for it, even though we can never pay us enough, I'll tell you that much, may have killed somebody in combat, but nobody ever, in a sense, gave us the tools up front to be able to digest and deal with those problems, those complications on the back end. But I'll bring it in is that one of the ways that you can help deal with those is through faith, right? Through God.
Yes.
Through love.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we have to allow our mind to be held to the goodness of things, right? I believe in scripture, it states, be anxious for nothing, but through prayer, petition, and thanksgiving, make your request known to God, and he will bring the peace that transcends all understanding. And this is, therefore, I tell you, whatever that is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is kind, whatever is just, think of such things. If they are excellent or praiseworthy, think of such things. What happens is we get so stuck on thinking about the negativity that we miss the blessings in our life. When I'm working with individuals with combat trauma, what I do is I help them pull the trauma from the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, right? We pull it to the frontal lobe, and then we start to dissect it. All right. When we just dissect it, we look at the trauma from multiple perspectives. It's called a multi-perspective approach. Now, only human beings are capable of doing that because our brains are so fine-tuned. So we break it down and we recognize we did the best we could. We're not going to let the enemy blame ourselves for the bad situations or the events. We're going to see how God made a way for us, even when we felt it was impossible. And we're also going to recognize our blessings. When we break down the trauma and we suck the poison out of it, then we can file it back into the regular part of our brain, and that's called the hippocampus. And that's the long-term memory. So the goal is to focus on whatever is lovely, whatever is pure, whatever is good, right? And we do know that bad things happen, but we know that God's going to make a way. And when we believe that and we're able to see that manifesting in our lives, because we take the blinders of pain off so that we can see what's happening in our world, then we can truly heal ourselves and experience from trauma the peace that surpasses understanding.
Dr. Tiffany, I can talk to you all night, but I'm going to pass it over to my dear John Wayne Troxell.
Hey, Doc, one of the other characters is James. It's one of the first characters you talk about. And I identified with this guy very much. As a matter of fact, when you first sent me the transcript to read, I was on a plane reading James. Here's James, fresh back from Afghanistan. He is angry. He is one angry MFer, because of loss and trauma and all this stuff. He's doing some things that are really normal reactions to abnormal circumstances. He's sleeping in his garage. He's drinking. He's heavily using alcohol. And his wife's sitting on the couch with a scowl on because she's upset with how he's acting and he's not the same. So kind of talk us through James. And, when I see James, I see thousands of service members that are just like James. So kind of talk us through that character. And it seems to me that you probably treated a lot of Jameses in your time.
Yes. So James is a perfect example of a service member being on full-blown battle mind, right? So I use the analogy. Have you ever heard of the car called a Yugo? They're like really crappy cars. Okay. So I laugh because in El Paso, we get a lot of wind. And if you were to have a Yugo and you had a lot of wind going on, the car alarm would go off. It would be going off for the wrong things. And so when we go from in the sandbox to essentially in garrison again, our brain doesn't know what to do with it. We're overstimulated, right? We have to recalibrate that car alarm. And essentially that's what was happening with James. He was overwhelmed, right? When you're overwhelmed, what do you want to do? You want to isolate. Now, James had some traumatic experiences. He lost one of his closest battle buddies. And so he was grieving at the same time. And how was he coping? He was drinking alcohol. You know, alcohol is the enemy's way of telling us, hey, this will make it better. But, you know, alcohol is a depressant. Hello. It's gonna make it way worse. And then it's going to impede your ability to sleep and function properly. And if you don't get good sleep, how are you supposed to process and digest those painful life experiences? But again, he's on high alert. So he's hyper vigilant. He is having a difficult time interacting with his wife. They're all walking on eggshells around him. And it just came to a point where he had his come to Jesus, finally going to therapy, that he was able to understand why he was functioning the way he was. So basically, the bottom line here, the brain has to digest experiences just as the gut has to digest food. And so essentially, when your brain has a traumatic experience, your brain is having indigestion. So we're going to have to help you process that indigestion by breaking down the trauma. And like I said earlier, looking at it from a multi-perspective approach. And for me, it would be faith-based, but we also have cognitive components to that, like challenging the thinking, cognitive behavioral therapy wise. And is that a realistic thought? Is it really your fault? And then we break it down, we suck the poison out again, and then we're able to file it away in our long-term memory so that we can get healing. We don't want it stuck in the amygdala. That's the ugly part of the brain that triggers that autonomic nervous system, that fight or flight reaction that James was stuck in.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, like somebody I know by the name of John Wayne Troxell, and how I had to go about dealing with my PTSD. So doctor, we're going to take a break right quick. You're watching the eTool Nation podcast powered by Veterans Lending Group. And so we'll take a break for this message from Veterans Lending Group.
Boom.
At Veterans Lending Group, we're not just VA home loan specialists. We are educators, community leaders, military service members, or a family of those who serve. We are committed to serving, supporting, and educating our military families. 60% of our staff are prior service or spouses, and 85% of the loans we close are VA loans. We are your special ops of VA lending. We will not restrict your VA home loan benefit like many other lenders do. We believe that you have earned this benefit through your service, and we are here to protect your right to use it the way the VA wrote the guidelines. Our team can lend in all 50 states. We are here to assist you with your next home purchase or refinance, whether you are PCSing, transitioning, or retiring. Our team of specialists are here to support your family. Visit our website today to connect with a VA specialist. www.veteranslendinggroup.com.
Boom, and we are back at the eTool Nation podcast here. So, Doc, we want to get into now something that you're working on in the future, okay? And understand that you have a new book that you're working on for kids called Daddy, I Love You, But You're Not the Same. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that our children and even our spouses may not understand why we act the way we act. In fact, the pomp and circumstance that comes with returning home from deployment is really incongruent with your emotional state, right? And so as much as they haven't seen you and they want to smother you with hugs, you're like still overstimulated. And so they don't understand why you're isolating. They don't understand why you're kind of transitioning into that James character we discussed earlier. And so I thought it would be a fantastic idea to bring about the topic for children. Yes, there is one book out there that I think has been fantastic, but I want to take it to a deeper level. I have the child in that book actually experience a traumatic event while daddy was gone. Her baby brother ends up getting hit by a bicycle when he's getting the ball out in the middle of the street, and she blames herself for it. And the brother's okay. He just has a cast on. He's fine. But she blames herself. Then she starts isolating. Then she starts arguing with mom. She doesn't talk to her teachers. She's not doing well in school. And then she realizes she has to go to a counselor. And the counselor, in real baby terms, because it's like for the level for an 8-year-old, it's talking about how the brain has to also digest experience just like the gut does. We just explained that. And so it's in real kid form. And so she's like, oh, this is so great. And she starts to heal because she confronts the pain. She confronts feeling like it was her fault, like she's not good enough, all this twisted guilt that I call. And so when her dad comes back from deployment, she was doing all these things to try and make him proud, but he comes back, she's so excited, but he's starting to act like her. And she's like, hey, you're acting just like I did when I witnessed my brother get hit by the bicycle. You're blaming yourself. She says, Daddy, it's not your fault. She hears a conversation in the book, overhears a conversation with mom and dad arguing about how the father unfortunately lost a soldier he loved dearly in a rocket attack, and he blames himself. And so at the end of the book, she comes to her dad and she says, hey, it's not your fault. Just like you told me, it wasn't my fault for what happened with my baby brother. It's not your fault. And your soldier loves you. She says, you just got to go get the help for it. You're experiencing everything that I did. She breaks it down, shows all this wisdom. He goes and gets the help they need. And they have a transformative Christmas 6 months later all together, because love was able to heal all things in that equation.
Awesome.
Wow. Dr. Tiffany,
Go ahead,
I do have a question in regards to that. So only time will tell really the effects on combat on our children, right? So, and our spouses, right? They're the ones that receive us with open arms, coming back, just to find out, like you just mentioned, that, you know, something may be wrong with us. We're here in the physical form, I would say, but not mentally.
Right.
And the slightest thing may startle us. The something may trigger us. But how important is family as it relates to faith base? How can we utilize the strength of our family and our faith to our benefit to overcome those challenges?
You know, God blessed us with family, and family is an extension of his love for us. We were meant to live in relationship, and family is that, right? Ohana, you love your Hawaiian family, right? Ohana is so important. And one of the most important things we have to do is be very transparent with Ohana, because in the midst of everything related to combat trauma, they don't understand what you're going through. And then as a service member who is a combat veteran, we don't want to vicariously traumatize our loved ones. Sometimes we sit with shame, like, hey, I'm a soldier. Hey, I'm a Marine. I should be able to cope with this and deal with it because it's my job. But the reality is, you're a human before you are a Marine, and we all process trauma in the same way. And so what we have to do is educate ourselves for those who are the family members, the spouses, and the children. That's why that book's so important for the littles. But, you know, Peace After Combat, I created it so a spouse could read and understand what their service member was going through and hopefully give them that direction. But healing can happen in perfect love. Now, I always tell my service members, don't take advantage and don't use your combat trauma as a scapegoat for being a jerk. Right? Don't do that. That's not a scapegoat. No way. If you are accountable to it and you know what you're doing, take your time out if you need time out to regroup yourself and to woo-saw, but don't use that as a scapegoat. Your family does not need to be walking on eggshells 24/7, 365. That's not their job. Their job is to love you, get you the help that you need, to be compassionate to you and understand you, but you also have to do the work. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's just not osmosis that you learn how to get better. You have to actively rewire the neuroplastic brain that God has given you. You have to choose to hold your thoughts captive to the right things and not let the enemy continue to infiltrate.
Okay, audience, let's get your questions ready here. So, Doctor, we want to ask you something before we go to the audience. How important, in your opinion, is to the overall health and wellness of the individual is exercise, diet, maybe supplementation, and along with the kind of behavioral health kind of treatment. How important is this holistic effort?
Oh my goodness, it's so critical. You know, in Bible it states we are made in the image of God. And in the Christian perspective, we see God as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but we are also broken down into that same component. We are the spirit, the soul, which encompasses our mind and our decisions and our free will, and the body. And in life, the most effective we are is when our body is calm, when we can control our body, and when we can control our thoughts, so we can allow the goodness of our spirit to allow compassion and love to lead the way. And so you have to make sure that all of this is in check in order to do God's mission and God's calling for your life. Awesome.
Well, I will tell you, God would have been proud of me this morning, because I did a PT session with about 100 Tomahawks from 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry this morning, and they put a healthy dose of scunion on me. But I'm feeling pretty good, you know. So.
That's super hua of you.
Yeah. Okay, Vic, do we have any questions from the audience? There he is, our very own Cliffy Clavin, Ed Sullivan, who is our #1 fan. He's got a question for you, Doc. He is a veteran of the Afghan war, and like many of his peers, has somewhat struggled with the recent fall of Kabul. He's about to graduate with a master's in psychology, and a long-term goal of his is to work with military veterans who suffer from PTSD. What advice do you have for working with veterans who suffer from this condition and are also struggling with how Afghanistan ended? And do you fear that Afghan war veterans will go through many of the same struggles?
You know, those struggling with it, and if you're working on your master's degree, congratulations. That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you. So keep going, keep plugging on. And I think the best thing you can do right now is talk about it, process it, don't bottle it up, right? Because we don't want to continue to do the same repetitive behaviors that got us stuck in the PTSD cycle in the first place, and that's avoidance. So talk about it. As much as you can. Don't get fixated on it. Don't obsess over it. If you find yourself obsessing over it, talk to a professional. But talk to your brothers and sisters at arms. Nobody's going to understand you better than them. Call your battle buddy. They got your six, your airman, your wingman, whoever it may be. Give them a call and process it together. But of course, before you call, it's always polite to say, hey, I'm calling because I want to discuss this topic. Are you okay to discuss it right now? Because you don't want to trigger them as well if they're in a rough spot in their life. But just be considerate, and I'm sure they're going to say yes and walk you through the process, and you guys help one another. Venting is so important. Relieving that steam from the inside of us helps to release the stress hormone cortisol, so it makes us less prone to illness, especially in a pandemic. We don't want to get sick.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ed, for that question. Vic, do we have any others? Okay. So, Doc, again, on this line of physical, mental, and emotional health, you know, physical injuries are something people deal with all the time, but they can have a psychological effect on people, especially if they are in a high-performing kind of profession within the military and they're expected to be healthy and everything. What's your advice to folks on dealing with physical injuries that could overload them and lead to emotional kind of injuries as well?
That's a profound question. And I think we have to give ourselves the opportunity to grieve what we may have lost. But we also need to be able to visualize the life that we want for ourselves with that limitation. And we should visualize that life being an abundant life, a good life, a hearty life where you can still do the things that you want to do. And when you lose something that substantial, you can turn that into a testimony, because you're not the only one who has experienced that, but there's others who are going through it at all different phases and stages. And what you need to do is realize that, how am I going to, everything that I learned, I am inherently a warrior. And inherently being a warrior means overcoming even life's obstacles, even a physical challenge that you may be enduring. And how, as a warrior, am I going to still have a mission for myself, a mission for other people, and accomplish it? Just because you got hurt or you're not functioning in the way you may have wanted to before, it doesn't mean it's going to stop you or limit you. In fact, it might open new doors for you so that you can be an inspiration to so many others who need to hear that hope and healing is possible.
Awesome. Go ahead, Fonz.
Dr. Tiffany, so I think my thoughts with that is related to coping mechanisms and habits. So unfortunately, I came in, I would say, with a bad habit before I joined the Corps. And that was that my coping mechanism was alcohol. So my girlfriend broke up with me. I'm going to go drink, right? And typically we were playing, as earlier we were talking about Vicente Fernandez and Ramon Ayala, right? And just the opening alcohol. And then when I joined the service, I turned 21. Right after MOS school, I believe. And when I got to my barracks, alcohol was abundant, right? My first duty station was Okinawa. So we had several typhoon parties, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
And then it's the same thing. The coping mechanism that a lot of our service members utilize is alcohol. And unfortunately, it builds bad habits, and ultimately it becomes, your legacy, your character, who you are. So how can we utilize our spirituality, our faith, to build better habits and utilize that as our coping mechanism?
Great question. So there's a difference between the mind versus the brain, okay? So your brain is just this globular goop in your head. And your mind is what directs the brain. It is the captain of the brain. It determines how the brain is going to neuroplastically be wired. So what we choose to attend to is going to consume our mental real estate of the brain. So are we choosing life or not? In Deuteronomy, it states, I put before you blessing or cursing, life or death. So choose life so that you and your descendants may live. What is life? Life is not playing in the playground where we know disaster comes, right? In life, you reap what you sow. If you're sowing good seed in good ground, you're going to have a good harvest. But if you're planting bad seed, alcoholism, and you're planting it in that same type of environment, you're going to reap what you sow. You're going to get in bar fights. You're going to be more exposed to different personalities. People are compromised when their frontal lobe's not intact and alcohol is taking over. It's not a good situation. So you have to always choose. Be cognizant. Your mind has to choose the right path. Though it might be fun, it might be exciting, you also have to truly know what your limits are and set healthy boundaries for yourself, because it doesn't just impact you, it impacts generations to come.
So Doc, can you talk to us real quick about this thing you are the creator of, rhythm restoration?
Yeah, sure. So rhythm restoration is super simple. You do it when you're ruck marching, believe it or not. You're walking, right, or jogging, whatever it may be. It's a bilateral movement, and it also has a rhythm to it. So as you know, rhythm helps regulate the autonomic nervous system. First thing we ever heard when we were in our mother's womb was her heartbeat. It helps to calm us and soothe us. Bilateral stimulation is super easy. It helps the brain to process and digest. We notice that we do bilateral stimulation in REM sleep, when we are not awake, when we are unconscious. And REM stands for rapid eye movement. Our eyes are moving back and forth in our head. But the third component about rhythm restoration is using the power of visualization to re-script trauma and to visualize the life God wants us to live, and the life that we have in our hearts, the mission that we are called to. Because the more we see ourselves doing what we want to do, the more likely we're going to manifest it. Right? Some people would just chalk it up to the laws of attraction. But in reality, everything produces after its own kind. You have good thoughts, good things are going to come your way.
Awesome. Okay, so we want to do the book giveaway now. And I think it's unanimous that the recipient of a free copy of Peace After Combat is going to be our own Cliffy Clavin, Ed Sullivan. So Ed, we've got your address. and everything, but you are going to get a signed copy of Dr. Tiffany's book called Peace After Combat. Congratulations, brother. So, Doc, where can people find you? On social media or elsewhere?
I would say I'm the most active on Instagram. Facebook's more of a family thing for me, and I haven't mustered the courage to get onto TikTok yet. But Instagram's the place to find me, Dr. Tiffany Tajiri, and I also have a YouTube page where I post all my videos, lots of psycho-educational babble. If you like some of the stuff you heard today, there's lots of it there. So go check it out, Dr. Tiffany Tajiri. I also have a website, drtiffanytajiri.com. So you can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart. Any major book resellers are going to be having Peace After Combat.
Awesome. So, Doc, we're getting down towards the end here, and I just want to say thanks for being here. But Fonz, I'm going to give you an opportunity to give some parting words or any parting questions to Doc. Go ahead.
I want to say just to not just, Doctor, thank you very much for everything that you do. I'm sure that you have touched thousands, and I'm hoping that we can continue getting out the contents of this book. It's extremely valuable information in there, faith-based, that we can utilize to live a good life. But we know, everyone out there, we know that our brothers and sisters struggle. 24 a day or 22 a day is one too many. Mm-hmm. And one way that you can help is, again, by looking up Dr. Tiffany and reading her book. And it's just information that we can utilize, faith-based, to keep our brothers and sisters alive.
Yes. Amen.
So, Doc, again, thanks so much. You are a true professional in everything you do. And it is just an honor. I don't know if we can make this public or not, but congratulations on your marriage.
Thank you. Yay.
All right.
Yes.
You married an old horse cavalryman there, so your WASTA just went up. But congratulations to you and Alex. You both are great people. Alex and I served together in combat, so and you both are great friends of Sandra and I. So, Doctor, we're going to give you the last word here before we punch out here on the eTool Nation podcast. So please go ahead.
A lot of pressure, but here we go. Let me see. Okay, so you don't have to be a licensed and board certified clinical psychologist to help somebody. You are meant to help other people through your own love, through your own experiences and your own testimony. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask to help somebody. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody when they're not doing well. Don't just hand them a resource. You're completely capable as a human being with a loving heart to bring healing to somebody else. So don't think that it's only the job of the behavioral health professional. I think most of the time people are walked off the ledge right before suicide, not from us professionals, but because of somebody who loves them. So reach out and be that person.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Doctor. Really appreciate your time. We'll see you again here real soon. So thank you all for watching the eTool Nation podcast today. Hey, just want to give you a preview of next month's guest. It's going to be former Green Beret and a guy that has dealt with his own physical and emotional wounds of war. And he is the author of the book, Tip of the Spear. Ryan Hendrickson will be our guest next month. So to everybody out there, keep staying focused, keep getting after your goals and dreams. And always remember that, as Dr. Tiffany says, you don't have to be a doctor to help people. So if somebody's out there that needs a hand, lend that hand up. So God bless you all. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month.